nice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it'll change your life.
Wait, are you ready to record? I'm ready to record.
I am more ready to record than I have ever been in my entire life, Matt. That's not true.
Actually, I wasn't ready to record, but you caught me, so I'm just going to say I was ready to record.
Okay, well, here we are.
It rhymes. This
recording.
Parallel.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Hello, Rob.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, it's Dungeon Master of None.
For now, anyway, as long as that remains legal, it's Dungeon Master of None for the time being. But yes, it's still Dungeon Master of None, and I guess pretty slow.
I mean, we could become podcast rebels, pirate podcasters. Like we could set up one of those little ships off the shore and broadcast our signal into the mainframe.
I like that. Yeah, bring it back. Bring back pirate radio, pirate podcast. Yeah, it's been a pretty eventful couple of weeks, Matt and listeners. A lot of things have happened. A lot of things have also not happened.
It's been maybe the bigger story.
Yeah. Where do we want to start?
I guess since our last episode, since the draft in air quotes OGL by Wizards of the Coast was published by friend of the show, leaked, and then published by a friend of the show, Linda Codega at Gizmodo. There have been some responses from Wizards, and then by the end of this week, when we are recording as January 20th, 2023, Wizards has put out, this time, perhaps a real draft OGL 1.2, which is in some ways different, but in many ways not, than the leaked OGL.
Yeah, we'll talk about what's not in there and what is in there, but this is, well, it's official. It's not a legally binding document or anything, but it is a draft that Wizards themselves has provided to the general public. Unlike the leaked draft, which was given to select third-party creators and distributed internally and then leaked. Whether or not this is a meaningful distinction to you, I don't know. I suppose it's worth commenting upon. This, at least, was prepared for the consumption by a greater audience.
I think one interesting change is that over the past 5 days, if you'll go to the NASDAQ Stock Exchange in New York City,
and
I haven't look up the ticker symbol HAS. Basically, since the weekend of the leaked, I think Hasbro stock dropped, I think about 6 or 7%. Today it's back up, but the performance over the past days is 3% down. Yeah, I mean, who knows if this is just related to the Wizards just continuing to fuck up here, but maybe the markets have taken notice.
Hard to say, though. Yeah, on Friday it was trading at 66 USD, and then it dropped to a low of 61, and has now bounced back to 63. So it does look like the market responded somewhat negatively to either the OGL announcement or the handling of it. And we're going to talk a lot about it, but regardless of what you think about it, I don't think there's any denying this was a colossal PR fuck-up. Just a truly astonishingly masterclass bad example of how to communicate with your customers and also your partners. Pretty poor showing all around.
Yeah, I think since we recorded our last episode, Wizards initially put out a statement titled "An Update on the Open Game License," where they said things like, we rolled a 1, we're trying to be good stewards of the game, but in the end, we both win. We won because you told us how we fucked up, and you won too, because we're all friends here.
That's right. So I want to get a couple things out of the way before we start diving into this, because I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts. So 2 things. One, nothing, we're not lawyers, and even if we were, you shouldn't listen to us. Nothing that we're about to say constitutes any sort of like legal advice or legal outcome. We're relying on other people for that, and we're just going to sort of like talk about what it looks like to us. So please do not assume that we know anything or that you should listen to us. And 2, well, no, maybe that's just the big one. The rest we could talk about later, but you know, we're going to talk about this. A lot of other people smarter than us and more prepared than we are have talked about it in great length, and you should go to them for detailed breakdowns of what's in here and whether or not it's one thing or another. You know, I have a broader conversation in mind, and I'm going to rely on some people who are smarter than me to tell me whether or not this is good or bad. But I will say that overall, the whole experience leaves just a very bad taste in my mouth. I don't want to, you know, some people are going to get mad at me for this maybe, but I just don't really think there's anything that Hasbro or Wizards can do at this point to regain my trust, and they don't really seem all that interested in regaining it, mine or anyone else's. But anyone who felt blindsided or otherwise caught by surprise by the OGL draft or the OGL announcement, they're really like backpedaling and covering their ass. It does not feel to me particularly genuine. And Matt and I have talked about this before in regards to the changes that they make to be more inclusive. Feels kind of like they're being dragged, not like they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. I have more to say about that, but that's just like, you know, get that out of the way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a note and a caveat. My note is like, you know, the real reason here is, you know, we care and are like fans of a lot of other publishers who rely on the OGL and this sort of, you know, market or community of stability that it provided, and it being changed or revoked or deauthorized or whatever word you want to use. It's just like, you know, we don't want to see people who we're fans of and who we like, you know, have their livelihoods taken away. And you know, that's kind of what it comes down to, other than like, yeah, it's cool that, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is open. And I guess my caveat is, okay, like Wizards, you know, I feel like we already don't trust Wizards on a lot of things.
Right.
Or especially Hasbro, the executive team.
It's hard because TSR Wizards was also awful. It's not
there's no.
But Hasbro Wizards is awful in its own
right,
exciting new way. It's just,
right,
you know, yeah.
It's small business awful versus megacorp awful. Yeah. And yeah, they're both awful in their own way. And I guess it's like, you know, I don't ever really feel like I have to trust Wizards to, let's say, teach my students how to play D&D. But the one thing that they could do, it's not really about regaining trust for me. It's just about being not assholes, is, you know, decide that they're going to publish one D&D under the OGL 1.0A, right? Or if they come out with a new OGL, you know, promise they're not deauthorizing this, which, you know, again, people argue they can't do anyway. You know, there's something along those lines they could do to just not be assholes. And I think if you're like, oh, I'll never trust Wizards again, I would agree with you. I don't think you should trust mega corporations.
Right. I mean, that's a good point. I already didn't trust Wizards, and you shouldn't trust them.
And it's not about not trusting, like, the people who make D&D at Wizards. It's about, you know, okay, they're owned by a multinational corporation. Okay. Yeah, I don't trust that.
Yeah. I guess a better way of putting it, and this is an important clarification, thank you, Matt, is just it makes me extremely unlikely to want to invest time or energy or any of my own creative resources into any further Wizards or 5th edition or one D&D stuff. It really like dampens my spirits on that. And you made another good point, and this is maybe my primary there are 2 things that I thought were unacceptable. Now, one of them, or I guess 3 things. The leaked draft OGL included reporting requirements and royalties requirements for creators over a certain amount. To me, that was unacceptable. Absolutely just total breach of trust, violation of any sort of good sense, just totally, just plainly unacceptable. Like, that's just weird, like cruel corporate nonsense. They took that out. Good for them. A plus. I'm very happy that there are no longer any explicit royalties or reporting requirements. But the other thing was the way that they treated, like Matt said, third-party creators. Many of their games rely on the OGL 1.0a license, or they are planning to publish things under that license, and they were not given, as I understand it, more than a couple of weeks warning that this was coming down the pike. And that's, even if they were able to adapt, even if they were given a separate license or whatever, to me, that's just, it's absolutely unacceptable. Wizards relies so heavily on third-party creators and benefits so massively from the huge third-party market. It just absolutely beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. That to me was the number one thing that was so fucked about this.
Right. Like, just as an example, like, you'll find, like, whenever Wizards releases a book, or, like, for example, an adventure, like the Spelljammer adventure, third-party people will make, let's say, in the walled garden of the DM's Guild, which has a separate agreement, right, a continuing adventure for the Spelljammer one, which ends at level 10 or 11. But, like, that same creator is also creating stuff under the OGL elsewhere. And it's just, like, a huge fuck you to basically the people who keep their products usable and games alive.
Yes.
It's just,
and
it's
this
crazy.
is a separate issue because DM's Guild is not WotC explicitly, but, like, you know, the main marketplace is DM's Guild, and it's already a bad deal. You already, like, are under the whims of one bookshelf, and they take half of your revenue. Like, it's already totally, like, an awful, like, it's already very punishing to try to even not just, like, make a living, but, like, support the work that you do by publishing supplements necessary, like Matt is saying, supplements to support and improve the game. So yeah, so that's the, you know, Matt and Alexander and Legal Kimchi talked about this on our last episode in general, but, you know, now that I'm here to gripe about it, this was the real problem is that among you know, in addition to all of the ways that the draft OGL kind of fucked with the existing ecosystem, it was just really punishing to independent and third-party creators when they are already, like, it's not like they're making a ton of money that Wizards is missing out on. This is chump change. It is pennies, both to Wizards and to Hasbro. They don't need it. It was just needlessly punishing, and yeah. And I have thoughts about why they did that and why they've backtracked, but it just really shows a lack of respect for the people who keep the game going, and just sort of like a lack of understanding of the market, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think an executive at Hasbro has this vision of one D&D being all the D&D that you need, right? Everyone in your party maybe subscribes to one D&D. It has an integrated virtual tabletop with, like, animations and art and miniatures and stuff like that. You know, the funny thing is, it's like Dungeons & Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro as corporate entities have, like, missed the ball on this by a decade, right? They tried this, they failed. Other people have done it and succeeded. And, like, you know, the thing is, it's too late. Like, I think too many people are invested in other ways of playing, and whatever their plans for this are, it would have to be so good that, like, I just can't even imagine it working in the way they envision it, right? Obviously, they could make one of many virtual tabletops, but yeah, it's just not going to work, right? They just don't understand that, like, people who play Dungeons and Dragons also want to play another system, and if you have to take all the effort to get people on VTT or any VTT like the Foundry or Roll20, right? You want to be able to switch systems around, and it really just doesn't work.
I agree with you, and I have a big brain moment about like what I think Wizards thinks they're doing here. But let's talk about what's in this OGL draft that was released yesterday that's different, so that when we can talk about it, and I think there's a lot going on, but one of the key parts does relate to virtual tabletops. But so first, the good, the unalloyed A+ good stuff. So Wizards has, after much howling and gnashing of teeth and complaining by grognards like us, again, so far as this draft ever becomes legal, released some core D&D mechanics under the Creative Commons 4.0 CC BY 4.0 license. This is a much superior license to the OGL, for reasons that I don't understand, but people that I trust say it's just a lot more generous and a lot less likely to be clawed back, or impossible to be clawed back at any point in the future. They have, as I mentioned, removed all of the discussion of royalties, of having to report on your earnings to Wizards, and they've included some rules about hateful content or conduct, which I think is both good and bad, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But generally, again, compared to the draft that we saw a week ago, this is a massive improvement. Now, the caveat I have about that is that the one we saw last week was fucking nightmarish. So I'm damning with faint praise here, but it is much, much better than what we saw.
Right. I think one of the, I wonder if this is after just the week of silence and fuck ups and no non-responses from Wizards, that, this was enough to get them the PR win that they needed to maybe get their stock price back up. Because, I did see like articles in, the few publications that cover this kind of stuff being like, Wizards backtracks, everything. This one's all good now. Not every article did this, but I think one of the problems is, while this is still good, a lot of those things that you just brought up that are like good still have caveats. And then for a lot of fans and creators, there's still deal breakers in this license. But let's maybe talk about the caveats first, which is, while the like Creative Commons license is a great thing, there's a very limited selection that's in the Creative Commons stuff, and it's a lot of the stuff that maybe can't be protected anyway, and it's not the full SRD in the Creative Commons, which is I think what we would want.
Yeah, I need to see sort of like what it looks like at the end, but from what I can tell, only about 60 pages of the 400-page SRD are under the Creative Commons license, and it's things like classes, backgrounds, a little bit, not a spell list, but a little bit about how spells work, and then the section on conditions and afflictions and things like that. Things that, like Matt said, maybe can't even be copyrighted in the first place. So, while it's worth noting that all of this, everything that gets put under the Creative Commons license is good, because that means that you do not have to worry about using that at all. That is an improvement, but it's still, there's an awful lot of the game which is not included in that very generous license agreement. And that is, to me, feels a little, I don't know. I don't know how much credit to give them, right? If I thought they were smart, I would accuse them of doing some kind of like Bismarckian strategy where they start with a totally egregious proposal and then backtrack to what they always wanted. But like, I don't think they're that smart. So this just feels like a very like lucky or, I guess like a much better crafted a PR strategy. So that's the first caveat.
Yeah, the second one is, this sort of morality clause, which says that the license can be revoked if, like, you publish, hateful, harmful content, which, this could be a good thing. But the kind of two things is like, I don't know, like if you are arrested for, I don't know, protesting or something like that, could Wizards revoke your license? And then the other thing is like, do we trust Wizards to be the arbiter of this? Like, I could imagine, I don't know, some conservative person being in charge at Hasbro, though it is hard to imagine them caring enough, but they might, right? That wouldn't be great.
Well, the example that we've been given, or that I've seen trotted out, which is legitimate, is to prevent things like new TSR's racist star something book. Anyway, I've removed knowledge of this from my mind, but the dregs of old TSR has put out a book that has some pretty like explicitly racist and misogynistic stuff in it, and this would allow Wizards to stop books like that from being published. But on the other hand, we have seen, and I want to be clear, this was one bookshelf in DM's Guild, but we have seen Eat the Rich delisted or being forced.
It's an anthology of 5e adventures that are
5e
anti-capitalist.
Being forced to change language in their book to remain on the guild. They had to remove words like anti-capitalist. So, again, this was not... Wizards didn't do this themselves, but the precedent is set. And there's a much deeper precedent for banning or suppressing leftist political content than there is, unfortunately, conservative. And... there's plenty of racism and misogyny and out just awful shit still on the DM's Guild, because that's sort of like bread and butter for the RPG industry. Unfortunately, a lot of it I would like to see removed. Sorry, I'm a censor. I want to cancel people. Come at me, bro. But a lot of it's still there. So I cannot be confident that this is going to be used in the way that Wizards suggests that it's going to be used. In general, though, like, it's a good idea, and also I have to sort of admit that from a corporate perspective, they really have to do this to protect themselves, and the fact that they didn't before was a major problem. Not a defense, but I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand why this needs to be in there. There's no way they could publish this without including something like this to cover their asses in the future.
Yeah, I guess it's a thing that, like, if the language were like more specific and the guidelines for deauthorization were, I don't know, maybe not solely in Wizards' hands. I don't know. I don't really see them like forming a committee of of public safety to patrol the OGL products. But yeah, it just it is a little scary. Warning bells, kind of go off when you're, like I don't want to see like a racist or a transphobic, thing published, but I also don't trust Wizards to be the person to to monitor this.
Yeah, I again, going back to the trust and I don't know, just wondering about consistency. This is worrisome. There's also, and Matt mentioned this, and this is a real problem, and I don't know, a lot of gamers, I'm not one of these gamers, but, I think that they are right. Sorry, the thing I'm talking about is that this new license explicitly deauthorizes the old OGL, the OGL 1.0.
Yeah.
Or 1.0A. And that's not great. How not great it is really unclear to me. So there's some questions that I have that are not clear from either anything that Wizards has said or anyone that I've read about it. The questions I have are things like, does this kill existing 3.5, 3.0 if any, products? Like, are you allowed to continue publishing those things? Does it kill old school.
I think the answer to
essentials,
that
like,
is yes.
I mean, I think it. Here's the thing. I think it does, unless they add some language to protect those, because the new OGL mentions again the SRD 5.1, which is a 5th edition SRD. It does not mention the 3.5 SRD or any of the previous ones, which many games are built on and theoretically intend to continue publishing on, including Pathfinder 1.0 or first edition. So that's, to me, an issue. And like,
yeah, this is like kind of a deal breaker issue
Yeah.
for me. It's just like, this license, as it was understood, as we talked about last week, was understood was going to last forever and could not be deauthorized. And, that sort of breach of trust and it, regardless of how they would do it, it's going to hurt other publishers. And so them moving forward in that way and like any way is, that's pretty much a deal breaker for me.
And this is the consensus on Reddit, which skews older and more established when it comes to gamers, but they're in a fucking uproar over this. And I think they're right. And the general consensus that I've seen is that nobody is going to the extent that we have any power, but they're not going to accept or be happy with this unless it protects the original OGL or provides an opportunity or some way for publishers who are creating content under the old license to easily switch to the new one. But as it stands, it seems like it just kind of kills any future publishing for any of those companies. It also, there's other things in here, but one of the really, to me, one of the really weird things and concerning things is the separate virtual tabletop policy. And there's not a whole lot in the virtual tabletop policy, but there's a couple of things that are just, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if they can enforce this. I don't know if it is likely to stay or if it's whatever, but the intent of what's in the virtual tabletop policy is extremely concerning to me, right? So listen to this.
Yeah, go ahead and read that section.
What is permitted under this policy? Using VTTs to replicate the experience of sitting around the table playing D&D with your friends. So displaying static SRD content is fine because it's just like looking at a source book. You can put the text of Magic Missile up in your VTT and use it to calculate and apply damage to your target. Blah, blah, blah. What isn't permitted are features that don't replicate your dining room table storytelling. If you replace your imagination with an animation of the Magic Missile streaking across the board to strike your target, or your VTT integrates our content into an NFT, whatever. That's not the tabletop experience. That's more like a video game.
Okay, so a couple things. Most virtual tabletops already have something like this, right? And it's very unclear because sometimes they're specific to a spell, like Magic Missile. Sometimes they're generic effects, right? Roll20 has a dynamic lighting experience.
So
you can't replicate that.
Is Roll20's dynamic lighting, which is awesome when it works, and is one of the coolest innovations of the whole virtual tabletop. And again, I don't know if this is enforceable, but that seems explicitly like it would be verboten under this new OGL. And that's just the most obvious example.
Just so much ambiguity because okay, well, what if your virtual tabletop puts a filter on your camera that, gives you a hood, so you're a thief. You look like a thief.
A wizard hat is that
a wizard hat? I can bring a wizard hat to my table. I can bring a sparkler to replicate the light spell. Is that it's just there's too many caveats here, and I can see this basically scaring off or killing every small virtual tabletop company because there's just too much ambiguity here.
Yeah, I mean it feels to me like the intent here is to clearly suppress any future virtual tabletops and to make vulnerable Roll20 and the Foundry and any other major competitor to lawsuits or whatever, so that D&D can drive traffic, drive players, drive money into their as of yet unannounced theoretical virtual. Oh no, sorry, they did announce it. but we don't know anything about it. But they're working on a virtual tabletop. They hired a couple hundred people or something like that. I'm extremely skeptical because they have tripped on their dicks 100 times about this, but we'll see. It seems like that they want to do. The other thing is that this license applies to printed media, static electronic files, so EPUBs, PDFs, and virtual tabletops. It does not mention websites. So what does this mean for websites like Don John's, which has a really awesome like random dungeon generator, or Kobold Fight Club, which puts together, combat encounters? Like, what is, again, if I understand correctly, it just straight up kills those websites. Like, there's a bunch of free resources for D&D, a lot of really
that
good ones.
make
We have done
your game, Wizards, playable.
Yes.
Matt
and I have done multiple episodes on them. We both use these tools intermittently in real games and virtual ones. And again, I think that this means those just cannot operate. And cynically, I think it's because a lot of those functionalities are replicated theoretically on D&D Beyond. And so they're just, I don't know. So I guess the thing is, like, a worst case, absolute cynical reading of this is nightmarish. But even if you don't think that Wizards is going to use this in the worst conceivable way, the ambiguity, in my opinion, has a chilling effect on further creation. It's whether or not this is the intention, and I believe that it is the intention, it's just going to make people not want to create new things outside of Wizards' explicitly accessible and, approved marketplaces and, things that they say that you absolutely can do. It's going to really stifle creativity in the other area.
Yeah. I think this is a good point to like broaden the conversation, like into like what we could conceivably want for Wizards, and like why do these types of things continue to happen and stuff like that. I mean, I was just thinking, it was like, what would I like theoretically want from an OGL 1.2? And I was just like, I guess the only thing would be like if it was actually a better license than OGL 1.0A and didn't deauthorize that license at the same time. I think, to me, that seems like an unambiguous win for the community. If, let's say, the original license wasn't deauthorized, if this new one was, let's say, even more open, like the whole SRD was on the Creative Commons, it didn't have these other little caveats and pullouts for people who are doing fun things. And then, yeah, I think people would embrace it and be happy to publish stuff for the new, edition of Dungeons and Dragons. But unless they like do that, unless they like make it better, they're always going to lose here.
Yeah. And so we don't know what it looks like yet, but I think, to me, what I would want is what it sounds like Paizo is doing with the ORC, the orc.
Age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
And we are absolutely going to talk about it when they announce it. But the one thing, again, I haven't seen any of the details, but the one thing that immediately makes me optimistic is that it's going to be managed by a separate nonprofit. This is the way that Linux licenses and new licenses and other open source software has operated for 20 years. And I'm not sure that everybody appreciates that as awful as the internet is, it would be so much worse if it were not for a bunch of nerds back in the late 90s, early aughts, genuinely believing in, open source and sharing and information. And these licenses have protected a lot of software and allow you to use it for free or modify it. So using that as a model for future game licensing, I think is critical and necessary. Lots of people have pointed out that anything owned by any corporation is something that's always going to be under risk. And I firmly agree. I think it's always going to be under threat. I think it's always going to be risky. And it's frustrating because the OGL was has been around for so long, and people have been creating under it, creating things under it for just decades now. And this had a clear benefit for Wizards, but frankly didn't even occur to me that anyone would try to or think to claw it back. It's worth mentioning that it's still not clear if they actually can do that, but regardless, it seems like they think they can. And I gotta wonder, like, what would the TTRPG world look like if it weren't for the OGL, and what will it look like after the OGL, because it just shaped the industry.
I want to talk about that. I think, okay, there is a contrarian position here that I don't actually believe, but I'm just putting it out there. It's like, well, if there wasn't the OGL and there wasn't this like glut of, D&D material, then like maybe maybe we would have never had the D&D Renaissance, and maybe because of that we wouldn't have had the RPG golden age that we're in now. But it's also possible that maybe there would just be a lot more role-playing games that are not Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think that's likely, but it could have been the case.
I sort of agree with that take. I think you're right. We wouldn't have the resurgence, the renaissance that we're in right now. But I also think we'd have a lot less D&D for good and for bad. I think there'd be a lot. I think maybe other games would be bigger.
I think other games would be bigger.
Maybe Paizo would have done something different,
Yeah, we wouldn't have, I think at the whole, at least my guessing in this like theoretical alternate history is
this
that,
is a real, what if kind of thing.
We wouldn't have, D&D wouldn't be as big. I think the downside, and the upside would be we would have a lot of people playing a lot of other games. I think the downside would be that it would be less likely for new people to come into the role-playing game hobby. I just don't see some other game building the cultural cachet needed to kind of bring people in. But I don't know, like actual plays and stuff that bring a lot of people in are just, I feel like, going to happen anyway because of just how streaming works. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
I'm of two minds about this, because I agree that there's a real benefit to the network effect of D&D, that there's so many people playing it, so many people writing for it, so many different ways to play, that it makes it easier for new players to enter and for them to bring other people in or become DMs themselves. That being said, D&D, even if you love it, and I do, is not the easiest game, not even close to the easiest game to understand and to begin playing and to begin DMing for. And it's not the most accessible. So maybe if people were presented with something else earlier or sooner, or it were not so ubiquitous in the space, it's honestly very hard to imagine what a non-OGL world would have looked like over the past 20 years. There's just so much of the TTRPG industry has just sort of like operated with it as a backdrop.
So I guess we're back to capitalism. Capitalism ruining and making things, making and unmaking.
Well, buckle up, because I got some things to say about this, and I've been thinking about this a lot over the last week, and I've been reading a lot of people who I really respect and care about on both sides of the issue. A lot of both people who have been on this show and who I really respect as creators have come down on either side of this issue, one way or another. Some of them are happy with the new OGL. Some of them are furious with it. Some of them don't trust Paizo even. But I think that it's important to acknowledge that, yes, there are people who are making these decisions and they are greedy little corporate scumbags, but corporations are required to behave this way. Like they are like structurally and also like legally required to behave in this manner. They have to maximize profits. And if it's not now, it'll be later. Hasbro is going to try to, at every possible opportunity, bring more money in and capture customers for long-term growth. That is what is required to be a successful 21st century company. I read this quote somewhere that like a Marxist and an MBA will come to the same conclusion, just the MBA will think that it's a good thing. And like what it seems clear to me what this is what Wizards wants to do, right? Look at Roblox. Roblox, I don't play Roblox.
Oh, I'd rather not. The graphics are so bad.
So here's the thing. It makes hundreds of millions of dollars. And it does that because any idiot child, literally any child, sorry, some of it's really cool, but any child can make a like an adventure or a game or a simulation or a story or whatever and sell it in the Roblox marketplace. It's basically like a platform. This is clearly what Wizards wants to do. They want to create their own virtual tabletop, which is so great and so easy to use, and then bring everybody who's creating supplements and adventures and classes and whatever, and force them to use the virtual tabletop. So all of that money stays in the Hasbro ecosystem. And they're fine if people make money within it, as long as they're getting their like big, tasty, comfortable share. This is so much better than for a modern corporation than creating anything, than building any sort of like new product or like, you know, they're not going to make Funko Pops. They're going to capture.
At the end of the day, the Hasbro Executive Council, they're an IP company, right?
Yes,
they say
that's
as
exactly
much, right?
And that's what they want. They don't want to make, I mean, the movies are good, but the movies are a branding opportunity, the TV show, whatever.
They don't make the movies. They just license the IP to a studio, right? They didn't make Transformers Dark Side of the Fallen Dinosaur. Yeah, you know.
This is also the lesson of Trump. He didn't build anything. He licensed his name. This is not a joke. He made a lot of money just giving people the, you know, or letting them pay him for the privilege of using the Trump name. So I'm sorry to be cynical, but I think all of us who are gamers have to be aware that this is what Hasbro wants and is sort of like required to do. And even if we win outright this battle, even if they preserve the OGL, which I don't think they will, we still have to be on guard for whatever comes next. Their further attempts at this. They're going to try to continue to suppress and bring people in and protect that IP or make that brand more valuable. So with all that in mind, there have been a lot of, this is the other thing I'm seeing a lot of online and on Reddit is, you know, don't go see the movie, don't buy anything, don't go on D&D Beyond. I do think that it made a difference to cancel your subscriptions, but I don't think that, look, here's my cynical Marxist take. Boycotts don't work. Companies don't care. You cannot muster enough consumer sentiment to meaningfully boycott a company the size of Hasbro. You know, if we all
not without like
together,
a massive organizing effort decades long, you know, you're not.
Yes. Sorry. This is the thing. Is
not
like,
Cesar
without,
Chavez. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Without actual organizing, without like workplace and community organizing, it will not matter. You can't just like call for a boycott. You can't just like post on Facebook or Twitter or Reddit. It will not make a difference. Feel free to not buy things because you don't like your money going towards a company like Hasbro, but I don't think we should shame anybody who continues to use their products. I don't know that it matters. I don't think anybody should feel bad about continuing to enjoy D&D or, you know, going to see the movie. They're not the reason why Hasbro is doing this. Hasbro will do this regardless. There's nothing that can stop this train from moving in that direction. So I really feel like the boycott conversations are really misguided, and everybody who's like, don't go see the movie, don't buy anything. I don't think they care. And I don't think it will matter, like Matt said, without like serious organizing. And I guess like my take on that, I mean, for me personally, what this means is that I am probably going to play a lot less 5th edition and 6th edition, 5.5, 1D&D going forward. I'm going to favor other systems more heavily just because, you know, my only to me the only meaningful option feels like disengaging, because I know that I cannot by myself or without serious support turn the ship that is Hasbro. And I mentioned this before, but I feel like, to me, D&D has always been a type of play and not a specific company. I think that OSR is D&D and Pathfinder is D&D, and there's lots of games that fill the same niche. And so I will continue to play Dungeons and Dragons. I may not play the official Dungeons and Dragons game. Sorry, that was a long rant. I did warn you, but
yeah,
that's my big thoughts on that.
That all makes sense, and I think as a fan, as a dungeon master, I feel the same way. Especially because I feel like it's just it makes you feel shitty when thinking about Dungeons and Dragons, especially like, I don't know, for people like us and a lot of our listeners who are dungeon masters, who put in so much of their own time and energy and labor to learning these rules, teaching them to other people, encouraging other people to play, like, helping Hasbro's brand be successful. And like, those are the people who also buy third-party, OGL 1.0 products, who also make little adventures to sell. Like, for me as a creator, which, we are the smallest of small time, like, I don't think if these changes go through, if they revoke or deauthorize in any way the, OGL 1.0, like, we're not going to publish anything else under an open game license. Like, even though for us, right, because it's not our jobs, we have normal jobs, it's not going to affect us, right? It will affect our friends and people we like or think that in our mind are our friends because we read their stuff, and we don't want that to happen, and so we're not going to like participate in that system. Yeah. So yeah, that's my fan plus maker brain together.
Yeah. And it sucks. I mean, we are the smallest of small, and I love being a DM, and I love reading these books. I love creating. I was very happy. I'm very happy for all of our Patreons who give us a few bucks every month. It's really nice. It really helps us. It helps us pay others. It helps us justify spending more time on this. But I would do it anyway. I love what I love this. Like this is, we've recorded a podcast essentially every week for like the past 3 years, which is insane. Why do we do that?
4 years, Rob.
4 years. Because I'm just like, I really like, this is the thing that like really gets my gears turning. I like TTRPGs. I like to talk about it. I like to play them. I like to, dissect them and talk with other people. Like, this brings me joy. And I have put a lot of time and energy into this. And I do not need to be like praised or rewarded or compensated. It would be nice if I were not like kicked in the ass, unexpectedly by the company that holds so much sway over this hobby. Like, that's really all that I'm asking for. And yeah, it's just an incredible bummer. It's just a real like discouraging, unpleasant.
So while like right before we were about to hop on to record, Wizards, not only have they put out these couple statements this week and, under the new executive director who replaced Ray Winninger, but they also, like today, while we're recording, released a survey.
Yeah, Kyle.
Fans can
Kyle Brink. Never heard of you before,
Brink.
Kyle. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Don't go after Kyle. It sounds like
Kyle seems like a nice guy. Also, he must have drawn the short straw in like having to put his name on the last few
right, because the first one came out with like unsigned, the editorial staff endorses Goldwater for president. We don't want to say who. Yeah. So I thought, Rob, we could go through this survey together and just talk through our thoughts on it. Neither of us have seen the survey before. We don't know what's in it. Okay, so I'm on the first page. I guess we should just say, like, having a survey is already like a big step forward.
It is big forward. It is good.
There was like a bunch of rumors like going around. I think even people like reporting on them saying like no one read any UA feedback at Wizards.
I'm sorry.
That seems unlikely to me.
That's not true. And we have direct contradictory statements from people in. Anyway, listen, folks, I'm not going to name names. There's some weird clout chasers out there who are like spreading rumors. I'm not saying you should only listen to Linda Codega and Gizmodo.
I only listen to Linda Codega, friend of the show.
I would wait to freak out about anything until it's comes from a legitimate source, because some wild stuff has been out on the internet, and it looks bad when we latch onto it, and then D&D can say, oh no, we're not talking about AI GMs or whatever.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that one. Yeah.
Anyway,
the AI
the
GMs.
survey,
okay.
I do think they read them. Whether or not they care is something else entirely, but I believe that they read the responses.
Yeah, and it's used for different purposes. Maybe not the purpose we always want it, but I don't know. If you care about this, I would highly encourage you to take the survey. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, would you like to provide feedback on the content of the proposed OGL 1.2? Yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Now that you've read the proposed OGL, what concerns or questions come to mind for you?
Well, what we've said this entire show. I mean, don't deauthorize 1.0.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this content moderation. The VTT thing is completely untenable. The whole SRD should be in the Creative Commons. I mean, those are my main ones.
Yeah. Next question. After reading the proposed OGL 1.2, how has your perception of the future of Dungeons & Dragons changed compared to before reading OGL 1.2?
This is tricky because are you talking about my perception a month ago or a week ago?
It's better than a week ago, but much worse than it was a month ago.
Yeah,
I'm going to pick worse.
I'm going to pick much worse, and I'm just going to say, it says, what would be needed to improve your perception of D&D's future? I would just say hire more diverse creators and make the OGL 1.0 stick around and make this 1.2 even more open.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. These relate to the introduction to the System Reference Document 5.1. How would you rate your level of understanding and level of satisfaction with Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International? Rob, my level of understanding is low. I really don't know what the Creative Commons is.
My familiarity comes from people who I know and trust, who I've read extensively, who say it's good. So I'm going to say that's 2.
Okay. These licenses allow authors of creative works to communicate which rights they reserve and which rights they waive. Okay. All right. Okay. My level of understanding definitely cannot approve above the 2, but
what's good about it, sorry. Again, my level of understanding is that it's not owned by a corporation.
Okay.
It's one of those, nonprofit, neutral, whatever licenses. And so, yeah, so that's a 2. My satisfaction, again, as far as I understand, it's great. I can download images and all kinds of things, and nobody gets mad at me. I don't know.
I'll put high then. And then it says, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the content found in the SRD that will be released in the Creative Commons? Okay,
well, I'm just
so I think
yeah, because I understand exactly, because I looked what's going to be in the Creative Commons license, and I'm not very satisfied with it. I'm going to put low.
Yeah, the whole SRD needs to be
that. I mean, that would be a great first step, is putting the whole SRD into the CCBY.
Rob, give us our next question.
How would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the notice of deauthorization?
So
let me go take a look at it.
Remember, this is the thing that says OGL 1.0 is going to be deauthorized.
So, like we talked about earlier, my understanding is low, because if I understand it correctly, it sounds like it's going to kill a bunch of things like, again, independent websites and all existing 3.5 or ongoing 3.5. Anyway, so I feel like I must be missing something. I'm going to put 3 for understanding. It's only one paragraph, so I must understand it, but it still feels like I don't. Either way, my satisfaction is low. I'm putting an extremely low satisfaction.
Right. I'm just going to write, please don't do this. This is wrong and possibly illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's really illegal or a legal thing. It's a contract dispute or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just also possibly won't hold up in court.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to fill out this thing, make sure you, if nothing else, fill out this question and tell them that you hate the notice of deauthorization for reasons stated above.
Yeah. I mean, having to read feedback surveys, it always sucks. Whenever I've had to do it, I appreciate short to the point comments.
Yes.
Right. That are not filled with fuck words.
Yeah. I didn't mention this because surely none of you would do this, but please do not harass or yell at or threaten any Wizards staff. Again, I'm sure none of you are doing that, but I've been hearing about this happening, and everybody needs to fucking chill out.
Yeah.
But yeah, please be polite but firm in your responses if you do fill out this survey. Next question, Matt.
Yeah. We got 2 questions here. How would you rate your level of understanding and level of satisfaction with the types of content covered in OGL 1.2? How would you rate your level of understanding and satisfaction with the content ownership rights outlined in the proposed OGL 1.2? I guess my satisfaction is, again, pretty low because it seems like there's significant ways to publish content that are not covered.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like the license needs this. 1.0 didn't need this.
I mean, sorry, somebody pointed this out to me, but like Knights of the Old Republic is like an OGL game. Like it uses like the OGL license. Now they can't.
That's right. Yeah.
Deauthorize it.
Star Wars. Yeah.
But the thing is, you couldn't, I think, make an update or publish an expansion. Not that anyone wants to do that, but I'm just like, that's just to me an example of like, because they didn't say video games, because they didn't say websites, they just like left out all sorts of things. It just seems like a bad deal. I don't know. I'm gonna say, my understanding is high and my satisfaction is low.
Yeah.
3 questions here. How would you rate your level of understanding and level of satisfaction with the you control your own content section? And then same question about warranties and disclaimers. And then same question about modification or termination. My understanding of all these is pretty low. These are the legalist ones.
Warranties and disclaimers includes the hateful content thing. So I'm just going to put, I agree with parts of this, but I don't trust this language here, right? Especially the part about like, your content or your conduct, right? It makes me worried.
Yep.
I wonder, like, the license does say irrevocable, but like, I just wonder, and this is beyond my non-lawyer brain, like, does Wizards still think they can deauthorize 1.2? Like, it's just one of those things that now I'm like, well, okay, they said it's irrevocable, but maybe they still think it can be deauthorized. Like, I don't know. I'm going to put something in if there's a final general comment box about this.
I am not a lawyer, but I have read some comments from people who are that suggest that though this license is irrevocable, I think the whole license can still be withdrawn or something. I don't know exactly what it is. There are loopholes is what I've seen. Right.
Okay. How would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the virtual tabletop policy? So, I get parts of it because they put this FAQ, but it's still too vague, and I'm very unsatisfied that's going to hurt virtual tabletops that I like to use.
I'm going to hit them with their little capitalist hearts. Will feel it the most. It's anti-competitive. It's monopolistic. I don't like it. I'm that's what I'm going to tell them. Does Hasbro publish Monopoly or is it Mattel?
I think they publish Monopoly. Yes.
Ironic. It is Hasbro. All right. Let's see. Have you used the OGL or previous versions of the OGL to create third-party content? I sure have.
Yes.
Do you want to create third-party content for Dungeons & Dragons in the future? I'm going to put maybe.
I'm going to put yes. I mean, I do if
Sorry.
they don't fuck me and other people.
Sorry, the answer to this is I want to. Whether or not I will kind of depends on a lot of things. I will always want to. So I'm going to put yes as well.
Yeah. The question says you want, and I definitely want to. I would love to make another class for one D&D or whatever.
So this next question is, would you be comfortable releasing TTRPG content under the proposed OGL 1.2 as written?
For me, no. That's a no. There's a yes, no, I'm not sure. But, I mean, just because there's the deauthorization, like, I can't do it in the future if you're going to deauthorize and fuck people over today. I mean...
Yeah, it's a firm no from me as it stands.
I'm also going to put, like, here are the things I've written. They're not big things, but, like, I enjoyed writing them. And, yeah, I would love to do it again. Why not? But not right now. Compared to the OGL 1.0a, do you feel that you would be able to continue developing content the same way under the proposed OGL 1.2? Huh.
I mean, I think, again, to their credit, I don't think that if I wanted to, I would have to do anything different. The function is the same. So I'm going to say yes.
I guess I would say I'm not sure, just because I don't know how a lot of these are going to play
because
out.
There might be something I'm missing. So I'm going to put not sure. But again, the one thing that seems mostly the same is that you can, I wouldn't have to do anything different.
Last couple questions here. How would you rate your interest in using the content creator badge as part of third-party works? I want to look at that picture of the badge again. Yeah. Ooh, it's a nice badge.
It's fine. It's like, I don't want to do their branding for them. I don't know.
I'm going to put high. I like having badges.
I'm gonna put low. I don't want their shit on. I don't want to have to like.
I think it would help our products sell.
I'm gonna split the difference and put 3. I'm ambivalent about it. I don't care.
You're ambivalent about badges.
Yeah, I do like badges. I don't like that badge.
Okay, last one. What other feedback do you have for us related to the Open Games license or otherwise?
I already wrote down everything I want to say. I don't have any. I'm not gonna spew a novel at them about the things I'm pissed off about.
Yeah, I think I'll just simply put, like, the way this was rolled out, has left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and you say you're gonna work harder to earn everyone's trust. At this point, you've got to work harder than that, I think. And you got to actually do the things people are asking for, which is, and not just some of them, but, pretty much all of them. Like, you can't just be like, all right, we're getting rid of the royalty thing. No, you gotta, not promise not to deauthorize the OGL, and fix these other weird issues with this new one. I mean, at the end of the day, my feedback, actually, I might just delete this and write, why not just publish one D&D under the OGL 1.0a? I really don't. Or if you've got to have this content moderation thing, why not just publish it under OGL 1.0b and put in, a better line about content moderation, and that's it.
Well, and if it's like they say, they have to do this to protect their company because of the morality clause or whatever, why not republish the OGL exactly the same and then add your stupid morality clause,
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, to sum up, one, I'm glad they put this survey out there, and, at least from parts of the company, this seems an somewhat honest attempt to get feedback from the community. But, like, there's still a lot of, I don't know, fail safes that I thought were there that they have crossed, right? Lines in the sand. And unless, they go back over those lines, it makes it tough to support support Wizards here. Well, link to the survey is in the show notes. I'm sure we got a lot of things that we were vaguely talking about, could be not entirely accurate, but we tried to think thoughtfully about where we are now a week later.
Yeah. Yeah. It also sucks because nobody, we're a bunch of nerds and artists and writers and creators, and nobody should have to think about this. And it is a form of violence that I have to. Wizards of the Coast is doing violence. Doing violence to me is a problem that I've identified. Anyway, you can feel free to write to us. You should, though. If we got something wrong, maybe don't because we're doing our best here. But hopefully there won't be so much change, and we'll be able to spend some time thinking about and reflecting on this before we have to talk about it again. I am very much looking forward to seeing what Paizo releases in their license and to compare it and see how it differs. So if you were very excited about game licenses, stay tuned for that.
And I don't know, Rob, we gotta get back to talking about I need a break from thinking about these licenses. We gotta get back to an episode that's on something else very soon.
We're gonna talk about other things. We're gonna talk about different systems where many people have asked us for a how to start, how to play, how to switch to Pathfinder, which is honestly one of my favorite things to talk about anyway. So we'll probably do that very soon.
Yeah, let's focus on how to introduce your players to Pathfinder if they've played 5e, because I think that's the situation that we've both been in when we did it. Okay.
And
cool.
Yeah, I think that's also if you're wanting to make the switch, I think there's a really easy, straightforward case for switching to Pathfinder. So,
well, this saga will continue. It's so crazy seeing seeing people who don't play Dungeons and Dragons ask me about this. What's going on?
Oh, I know. It's
very strange.
I don't love it. I don't love all the attention our stupid little hobby is getting from, normal people. Please don't perceive us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for talking with me about this, Rob. It was
thank you for
can't
for
say it was a
listening to me,
pleasure,
Matt.
but it's something we had to do.
I had a lot of thoughts. And thank you all, listeners. I hope you found this entertaining or enlightening, at least one of them. Stay healthy, stay safe, and keep rolling them dice.
You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need a wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it'll change your life. Take a chance, you need a wrong or right.